KPMG has recently come out and announced the death of the Brisbane property boom. Are they right? Well, it's a question a lot of people have been asking me of late, and you can't blame them, right? After all, over the last few years, Brisbane property prices have increased significantly, and now people are starting to wonder, can prices really keep rising, or is a downturn coming? Well, I've spent the last several months analyzing the data and helping investors on the ground. And what I can tell you is that based on the data, these headlines can be quite misleading. That's why in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening to Brisbane property prices, whether they're likely to rise or fall, and what you need to be careful about if you are thinking about buying in Brisbane. By the way, if you are thinking about buying an investment property, don't go and buy blindly. We've put together a free property investing guide based on my now 23 years of investing experience that walks you through what exactly you need to look for when looking to buy an investment property and what you need to avoid. You can get that totally for free, both the audio version and the digital version, by clicking the link in the description below. Now, let's have a look at what's actually happening to the Brisbane property market. Brisbane house prices hit a record high, and one suburb nears a $3 million median. Yes, that's right. There's a suburb in Brisbane with a median price point of $3 million. That's higher than many suburbs in Sydney. Brisbane's median house price has surged by $22,000 in just 3 months, reaching a record high as interest rates fall. And this is as of July 24th of this year. The price of a typical house in Brisbane increased 2.1% to over $1,060,000 over the June quarter. The latest Domain house price report released on Thursday shows it's the longest period of continuous growth clocked in 21 years. So again, this reinforces why so many people are wondering, can the Brisbane property market continue to rise when not just have they had so much growth, but it's the longest period of continuous growth in over 2 decades. Brisbane's median unit price also reached a record high, up 3.6% in 3 months to $678,772, the longest continuous stretch of unit price growth on record. More than 30 markets notched 20% plus growth in just 12 months, and the gains pushed New Farm within splashing distance of a $3 million median. Domain's Chief of Research and Economics, Dr. Nicola Powell, tips more rises ahead as buyer confidence builds despite waning affordability. Now, I'll address this affordability issue in just a moment. We expect prices are still going to rise. We have got improved buyer confidence. We've seen a slight lift in the auction clearance rate, and there's a strong expectation that the cash rate will lower in August, which will be setting the stage for a strong spring, she said. Hold on. So now we have KPMG saying the Brisbane property market boom is dead. But then we have Domain saying, no, the Brisbane property market is set to keep rising significantly. So who do you believe? Well, to answer that question, there are 3 factors you need to consider. Number 1, supply. Is it easy and cheap to build lots of properties in Brisbane? The answer will probably surprise you. Brisbane tops nation for building costs amid construction surge. Construction costs in Brisbane have surpassed those in Sydney. Yes, it's more expensive now to build a property in Brisbane than is in Sydney. A new report from surveying firm Turner and Townsend has ranked Brisbane as the most expensive city for building across Australia and New Zealand, with construction in the Queensland capital costing an average of $5,009 per square metre. Now, why is it so expensive to build property in Queensland? The answer is the Olympics. You see, almost everyone involved in construction right now is being incentivized to go and get involved in infrastructure building, commercial building, stadium building, whatever you want to call it, that's connected to the Olympics. So labor costs are rising because they're being paid more. If you want to go and build a property in Brisbane, you need to pay the tradies the same amount as what they would be earning if they got involved in building something for the Olympics. That's not cheap. So that means that it's actually now very, very expensive and very difficult to build more properties in Queensland. And there's already a significant shortage of properties in Queensland. Housing crisis failure, 96,000 homes short of Queensland target. Queensland is set to fall a whopping 96,000 homes short of a 2029 national target in a race against the clock to fix the housing crisis. So that means that Queensland was already behind target, and now with construction costs rising so significantly, do you think they're actually going to be able to make that up? Or are they more likely to fall even further behind target? It's pretty clear the supply shortages are going to continue. So then what about demand? People moving to Queensland, is that going to change anytime soon? Well, when we look at this data here, we can see that although Queensland gets less in terms of overseas migration at the moment compared to, say, New South Wales and Victoria, interstate migration, the dark blue bar, is the highest of the three states. Now, consider this. While most people who come to Australia, yes, they are coming to Victoria and New South Wales, most of them have never even heard of Brisbane. To be fair, most of them have never even heard of Canberra, our nation's capital. Now, after 2028, which is the next Olympic Games in LA, at the end of those games, they will announce to the world where the next games happens to be, which will be Brisbane in Australia. Now, for most people outside of this country who think that we only have two cities, Sydney and Melbourne, and everywhere else is bushland and kangaroos hopping around, what do you think is going to happen? All of a sudden, people will realize that we have more than two cities. We have a third Olympic city, Brisbane. It's cheaper than Sydney. The weather is probably better. I think you'll start to see a lot more migration move to Brisbane from overseas, and that will further increase demand. So let me break it down here. We already have a supply shortage, not enough properties that are needed based on current migration levels. I expect migration will increase directly into Brisbane and southeast Queensland as a result of the Olympics. That's going to further increase demand, making the gap between demand and supply even bigger. What do you think that's going to do for property prices? But then you might ask, well, what about affordability though, Nero? I mean, prices in Brisbane have risen so much. Well, yes, they have. But consider this, the median price in Brisbane for a house is still just over $1 million. Whereas in Sydney, where can you buy a house for $1 million these days? You really can't. The median price for houses in Sydney is about $2 million. So it's twice what that is in Brisbane. So therefore, Brisbane, even though it's increased so much, is still affordable compared to Sydney. This is the key metric that so many people are missing. They're judging Brisbane's affordability based on where prices were a few years ago. That's not how people think when they're looking to move to an area to buy property. And as an investor, you want to focus on where are owner-occupiers moving to. People looking to buy and move into an area to live, say they're coming from Sydney, they're the ones who are going to drive prices up because they're not saying, oh, should I offer $1 million or $1,020,000 or even $980,000 for a property in Brisbane? No, what they're saying is, well, the equivalent property in Sydney would cost me $2 million. So I don't care if I spend $1 million or maybe $1,050,000 or even $1.1 million. It's still cheaper than the alternative, which is buying in Sydney. So while we still have that massive price gap where Brisbane prices are roughly half what they are in Sydney, this will continue to drive Brisbane property prices higher. Then we have the immigration factor. Then we have the supply shortages. When we look at the key fundamentals, no matter how much property prices have risen, the data shows that prices in Brisbane are set to rise significantly, but that does not mean you can just buy anywhere. The Brisbane market is now starting to perform a lot more like Sydney. What that means is suburb selection is going to be very, very important. For example, there's a suburb called Jimboomba. Check it out on the map if you're looking to buy in Brisbane. This is an area I would not buy in right now. There's so much available land. It's one of the few suburbs where they're building a significant number of homes. And when you look at the distance from the CBD, the lack of infrastructure and everything else out there compared to other areas that are closer to the city with more infrastructure, those areas will likely outperform. So definitely, I think the Brisbane market has a lot of legs. I think prices will rise quite significantly over the next 5 to 8 years. However, you cannot buy blindly. Do your due diligence. And if you want help to find the best areas to buy in Brisbane, check out the link below to book totally for free a no obligation consult with a member of my team to see if we might be able to help you. And now that we've hopefully dispatched all those misleading headlines, and I expect you're going to see a lot more about the Brisbane market, you still might be wondering, okay, well, if I look to invest in property, are prices likely to rise, especially with the economy failing? Well, if that's what you're wondering, check out this next video where I actually break down what's likely to happen to property prices in the face of a slowing and potentially failing economy.